Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bible in 1 year. We have just wrapped up the conquest era, where Joshua takes over as the leader, and he leads the Israelites to defeat all of these kings and kingdoms and take possession of the land that God had given them. And we are now entering into the Judges era, and this is after Joshua has passed away. And so this was about around 1375 to 1050 BC is when the Judges era was taking place. And following the death of Joshua, a new generation arises that fails to honor God. They do whatever seems right in their own eyes, according to Judges chapter 17, verse 6, and chapter 21, verse 25. Throughout this time, the Israelites repeatedly turn away from God and worship the idols of their conquered enemies. Noticeably absent from the Judges era is any mention of annual commemorations and feasts or the reading of the book of instruction as commanded by Moses. Nehemiah would describe this period as a time when the people turned their backs on God's law, according to Nehemiah chapter 9, verse 26. Therefore, they spend several centuries in a series of sin cycles, spiraling more deeply into sin with each cycle. The sin cycle is described in Judges chapter 2, verses 11 through 19 as 1. Israel forsakes the God of their fathers, embracing the idolatry of the Canaanite people, or sin. 2. God gives them into the hands of their enemies, slavery and oppression. 3. Israel lives under oppression until they finally humble themselves and cry out to God for help, which is supplication. 4. In response to their humility, God raises up a judge, a military leader, to deliver them from their enemies, which is salvation. 5. As long as the judge is alive, the people follow God and live in safety, which is living in peace. And 6. When the judge dies, the people lapse back into sin, and the cycle repeats itself. God describes these dark days by saying that Israel prostituted themselves, according to Judges chapter 2, verse 17, chapter 8, verse 27, and verse 33. God had committed himself to Israel, and they had agreed to the covenant, but they were unfaithful, choosing instead to devote themselves to other gods. God warned Moses about this day. You are about to die and join your ancestors. After you are gone, these people will begin to worship foreign gods, the gods of the land where they are going. They will abandon me and break my covenant that I have made with them, according to Deuteronomy chapter 31, verse 16. In his mercy, God raises up 12 judges to deliver Israel. Some are national heroes, such as Deborah, Gideon, and Samson, while others seem to have been regional judges, such as Othniel, Ehud, and Shamgar. The periods of oppression under foreign rule range from 7 years, according to Judges chapter 6, verse 1, to 40 years, according to Judges chapter 13, verse 1, with intermittent times of peace. During the time of Gideon is when the people first petition for a judge to reign over them as king, according to Judges chapter 8, verse 22, fulfilling the words God had given to Moses in Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 14. The final series of events in the book of Judges demonstrates the extent of evil that had arisen among God's people. In one story, a certain Levite who is Moses' own grandson, according to Judges chapter 18, verse 30, becomes a personal priest in the household of a man named Micah, participates in idolatry, and then encourages idolatry in the tribe of Dan. The next story also concerns a Levite. In this case, the Levite allows the tragic rape and murder of his concubine by the men of Gibeah, who were from the tribe of Benjamin, according to Judges chapter 19 and 20. The shock and awe story awakens the Israelites from their spiritual lethargy. The other tribes turn against Benjamin in civil war and decimate the tribe. Sin thus completely derails Israel. Instead of conquering the Canaanites, the tribes of Israel turn against each other. The period of the Judges shows the decline that occurs among God's people when they turn away from him, ignore his word, and seek to live their own way without him. It also demonstrates the stubbornness of the people, that they would be willing to suffer under oppression for many years before humbling themselves. In spite of all this, God continues to display his mercy and devotion to his people, providing help to them whenever they cry out to him. While this era is marked by rebellion and wickedness, the story of Ruth, which occurs sometime during the sin cycles of the Judges, shines as a bright spot of hope for the future. Elimelech and Naomi from the tribe of Judah immigrate to Moab during a famine. Elimelech and both of his sons die in Moab. After Naomi hears that God has once again provided food in the land of Israel, she returns to Bethlehem. Naomi's daughter-in-law Ruth, a Moabite who declares faith in the God of Israel, accompanies her. Ruth's ability to glean in the fields of a man named Boaz and her later marriage to Boaz reveal that there is still some spiritual attentiveness in Israel during the dark time. Both the harvesting regulations of Leviticus chapter 19 verses 9 through 10 and the Levirate marriage regulations of Deuteronomy chapter 25 verses 5 through 10 are followed. Ruth and Boaz, a descendant of Judah, and Tamar have a son named Obed. The genealogical record that closes the book of Ruth links Boaz to Judah and points forward to the coming of King David and the fulfillment of what Jacob had said in Genesis chapter 49 verses 8 through 10 regarding kings coming from Judah. God works providentially even in the midst of great hardship to fulfill the promises he has made. The Judges era reveals a God who speaks. The angel of the Lord appears as a messenger 3 times in Judges to confront Israel regarding their sin in Judges chapter 2 verses 1 through 4, to call and embolden Gideon, Judges chapter 6 verses 11 through 23, and to instruct Manoah's wife regarding her son Samson, Judges chapter 13 verses 3 through 24. God also speaks to his people through the oppression they experience. He uses foreign oppressors to get the attention of his people and provoke them to turn back to him. The Judges era reveals a God who acts. God raises up men and women as prophets, judges, and military leaders to deliver his people. He uses 2 widows to preserve the lineage of Judah and carry along his redemptive purposes regarding the promised seed who would one day save his people. God reveals himself as patient, merciful, and a hearer of his people's cries.